Sunday evening. Happy New Year and welcome to 2025. Let's ride. Welcome back to the drama-free true crime destination known as Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. I am Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw. So good to have you all here. And like I said, tonight we have a load of stories to cover, including the most anticipated trials of 2025. So let's get started. We're going to start with something that went down earlier in the week, or should I say that happened at the back end of 2024. Police say a pregnant woman was stabbed 14 times over a pizza delivery tip. Alright, here's the breakdown. A woman is behind bars after allegedly stabbing a pregnant victim 14 times over a pizza delivery tip, and police are searching for her accomplice. Brianna Alvello, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, is charged with attempted murder with a weapon, home invasion with a firearm, and aggravated assault with a weapon for the attack on a woman at a Florida motel. Police say the victim, Melinda Izari, who was staying at a hotel with her boyfriend and 5-year-old daughter, was attacked after ordering a pizza. Alvello, who delivered the food, allegedly became upset after she was only given a $2 tip. Izari told officers that she tried to find smaller bills after Alvello refused to make change for the pizza, but could not find any more bills. She said that Alvello rolled her eyes and walked away without saying anything after taking the money. Later, Izari said she, her daughter, and her boyfriend slept in bed when there was a loud banging on the door. When they opened the door, a large man and a woman forced their way in, armed with a knife and a gun. Police say the male suspect took Izari's boyfriend into the bathroom and left the women and child in the bedroom. Izari said Alvello began going through her things, dumping out her purse and breaking her daughter's Nintendo Switch. The victim then turned her back on the female to shield her daughter. Once Izari turned her back, she felt a hard strike to her lower back. Izari thought the female punched her until she looked down and saw blood coming from her back. It wasn't like she was just upset, Izari told WSVN. It was like she was in a frenzy mode. Izari said the attack stopped when the male suspect yelled it was time to go. Police said she was stabbed a total of 14 times across the chest, arms, legs, and abdomen. She suffered a punctured lung and was rushed to surgery after arriving at the hospital, where they determined she was several weeks pregnant. The charges against Alvello carry a potential life sentence in prison if convicted. She is currently held without bail in the Osceola County Jail. Now, seriously, now hold on. What I didn't share the screen with you. My apologies for that. But here is that screen, and here on the left side of it is your defendant. There she is. Now, honestly, who in their right mind would want to stab a pregnant woman over a $2 tip for pizza? But then again, knowing Brianna Alvello, she had ulterior motives. She wanted a lot more than just $2, which is evident by what she and her boyfriend did as far as the break-in. I'm gonna keep tabs up on that case. Come on, it's 2025. I'm keeping tabs on a lot of cases, which I'm gonna get to later regarding the most anticipated trials of 2025. Next on my docket, Ah, I'm gonna say that story for a little bit later. I'm gonna say that's one I'm gonna stay for a little bit later. I'm gonna go to another one where a couple was accused of torture and abuse of adopted children plead guilty in that case. Ah, take a look at the right side of your screen. These two monsters, Matthew Edmondson. Yes, the mother's name is Matthew. Surprise. And Charles Edmondson. They're accused in the torture and horrific abuse of their five adopted children, and they have accepted a plea deal. Matthew Robert Edmondson, yes, the mother's name is Matthew, pled guilty to 5 counts of child endangerment, while Charles Edmondson pled guilty to 3 counts of child endangerment, 1 count of felonious assault, and 1 count of kidnapping. Matthew was sentenced to 13 years in prison, while Charles was sentenced to 15. My opinion, not enough. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Back in June, authorities reported that the Edmondsons took the boys, took in the 5 boys, all biological brothers, as foster children, and eventually adopted them. Each boy had been born with a unique set of medical difficulties. But after the Edmondsons took them in, they were in and out of the hospital with issues like internal bleeding and bleach burns, all problems that the Edmondsons presented excuses for. According to Claremont County Prosecutor Mark J. Tekluv, Charles was under investigation for engaging in sexual relations with a different adopted son, separate from the 5 boys, who officials said was an adult at the time, but had been groomed from a young age. Following that investigation, Tekluv said the detective investigating Charles recovered several videos showing the parents treating the 5 biological brothers, quote, worse than prisoners of war, and hold them in a bedroom officials described as a dungeon. The prosecutor's office, sheriff's office, and Claremont County Children's Protective Services have reported that the 5 brothers are living in new conditions in which, according to Tekluv, they are thriving. Thank God for that. I want to thank all the school staff, neighbors, family, and doctors who came forward and willingly gave interviews to my prosecutors. Everyone's persistence kept these kids on CPS's radar and undoubtedly helped to prevent further abuse, Tekluv said. Matthew's biological son, Bailey, was also sentenced to probation after pleading guilty to misdemeanor counts of child endangerment. Like I said, those 2 monsters didn't get enough time. They should have gotten a lot longer for abuse and torture of 5 kids. 6 if you count the one that was sexually abused for that. Come on. I'm sorry, y'all, but you know me in cases like this. Sure, they got all. As far as I'm concerned, those 2 they got off easy. Next on the docket, an Argentine judge charges 5 people over the death of former One Direction member Liam Payne. Argentine judge confirmed charges against 5 people in connection with the death of Liam Payne, a former member of the musical group One Direction, and ordered preventive prison for 2 of them for having supplied him with drugs. A judicial officer confirmed the judge's decision and said that one of the 2 people ordered to be put under preventive prison, a form of pre-trial detention, was an employee of a hotel in Buenos Aires, where Payne stayed until he died after falling from the balcony of his room in October. The officer said the other person was a waiter Payne met in a restaurant. The officer, who requested not to be identified as a condition to talk about the ruling, said that both face charges for supplying drugs and they need to present themselves before the judge. The judge has also charged 3 other people with manslaughter, including a businessman who was with Payne in Argentina and 2 managers of the hotel. The official said that they were not ordered to be held under preventive prison. In November, prosecutors filed initial charges against 3 people, but they didn't reveal their names. Payne fell from his room's balcony on the 3rd floor of his hotel in the upscale neighborhood of Palermo in the Argentine capital. His autopsy said he died from multiple injuries and external bleeding. Prosecutors said that Payne's toxicological exams showed that his body had traces of alcohol, cocaine, and a prescribed antidepressant in the moments before his death. Payne's autopsy showed his injuries were caused by neither self-harm nor by physical intervention of the others. The document also said that he did not have the reflex of protecting himself in the fall, which suggests he might have been unconscious. Prosecutors in Argentina has also ruled out the possibility that Payne died by suicide. And as you fans know, One Direction was one of the most successful boy bands of recent times. It announced an indefinite hiatus in 2016, and Payne, like his former bandmates Zayn Malik, Harry Styles, Niall Horan, and Louis Tomlinson, pursued a solo career. To me, the case reminds me a lot of the Matthew Perry case here in the U.S. People that were supposed to be so close to him, feeding him all these different types of drugs and all. It's just sad when we look at these celebrities and they're doing so great in our eyes, but behind the flash, all the glamour and glitz and all that, they're suffering. So just because they're under the spotlight doesn't mean they aren't real people too. Think about that. Next on the docket, according to a sheriff, a missing teenage girl was left in the woods by a man she met online. A missing 14-year-old Tennessee girl has been found safe, thank heaven, in the Louisiana woods, where authorities say she was left by Alexander Materney. Alright. A missing 14-year-old Tennessee girl has been found safe in the Louisiana woods, where authorities say she was left by a man who had picked her up from the home after the two met online. 28-year-old Alexander Materney drove the girl to his home in St. Rose, Louisiana on December 23rd and had sex, after which the girl disclosed her age. According to the St. Charles Parish Sheriff's Office in a news release. Maternity then brought the girl to a secluded wooded area in Tangipahoa Parish and left her there with a tent, food, and water, authorities said. He then went to Jennings, Louisiana to celebrate Christmas with his family, according to officials. This is the tent here that he left her with, allegedly. Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff Gerard Sticker said the two had met on a gaming platform and had made a plan for Matern to drive to her home in Tennessee. Matern faces numerous charges, including aggravated kidnapping of a child and felony counts of human trafficking and carnal knowledge. Jail records do not show if he has an attorney who can speak on his behalf. This is your defendant, guys. The break in the case, Sticker said, came when the girl's parents did their own investigation and tracked Matern to Jennings, Louisiana, where his family lived, about 160 miles west of Matern's home in St. Rose. They were the key to all this, Sticker said. I'm telling you, if they want a job, I'll hire both of these parents as investigators. I would. Jennings Police Chief Danny Semes said his office received a call Christmas Eve about Matern possibly having the girl in Jennings, but when officers checked at the family home, they were told he no longer lived there. The next day, police were notified that Matern had shown up at the family home to celebrate Christmas, and he agreed to an interview with officers. Authorities said Matern then took detectives to the girl's location in the woods, about 42 miles from his home. She had been there for about 2 days. You can't make this stuff up. It's a Christmas miracle that she was found safe. This thing could have ended badly, Sticker said. The girl was transported to a hospital for a checkup and later returned to her family, according to investigators. I have to agree. That was a Christmas miracle. And I also have to agree that this thing could have ended a different way too. I could have been covering this case totally differently. So thank God they found her when they did. Now I say let's get justice for her. Let's get justice for her. Let's make sure this Alexander Matern doesn't see too much time on the outside, if you smell what I'm cooking. Next up, the Gone Girl kidnapper Matthew Muller is charged in 2 more cases. 2 more charges of home invasion and sexual assaults. Well, if you're going to get them, get them. This is out of Santa Clara, ladies and gentlemen. A man who kidnapped and sexually assaulted a Northern California woman in what became widely known as the Gone Girl kidnapping has been charged with 2 15-year-old home invasion sexual assaults. That's according to prosecutors. Prosecutors allege 47-year-old Matthew Muller broke into a woman's home in Mountain View, California in September of 2009, attacked her, tied her up, and made her drink medications. He then told the woman in her 30s that he was going to rape her, but she convinced him not to. Prosecutors said Muller left after recommending the woman get a dog. Ain't that something? I'll talk about that in a moment. The following month, prosecutors said he broke into a home in Palo Alto, California, bound and gagged a woman, and forced her to drink NyQuil. He started assaulting the woman in her 30s, but she also convinced him to stop. Muller has been charged with 2 felony counts of committing a sexual assault during a home invasion. The charges carry a possible sentence of life in prison. He's currently serving a 40-year prison term for the 2015 kidnapping. The details of this person's violent crime spree seem scripted for Hollywood, but they are tragically real. That's according to a statement from District Attorney Jeff Rosen. He continues by saying, "Our goal is to make sure this defendant is held accountable and will never hurt or terrorize anyone ever again. Our hope is that this nightmare is over." Muller's lawyer, public defender Augustin Arias, said they have no comment about the new charges. The new charges came after testing evidence based on a new lead, according to prosecutors. District Attorney criminalists found Muller's DNA on straps he used to bind one of the victims. Muller, a disbarred Harvard-educated attorney, pleaded guilty to the 2015 kidnapping of Denise Huskins. He was also sentenced in 2022 to 31 years in state prison after pleading no contest to 2 counts of forcible rape of Huskins. Huskins was abducted by a masked intruder who broke into her boyfriend's home in Vallejo, a city in the San Francisco Bay Area. Her boyfriend, Aaron Quinn, told detectives he woke up to a bright light on his face and that intruders had drugged, blindfolded, and tied both of them up before kidnapping Huskins in the middle of the night. Quinn also said the kidnappers were demanding an $8,500 ransom. A Vallejo police detective interrogated Quinn for hours, at times suggesting he may have been involved in Huskins' disappearance. Quinn took a polygraph test in which an FBI agent told him he failed. The couple said later in a book about their ordeal. Huskins, who was 29 at the time, turned up unharmed 2 days later outside her father's apartment in Huntington Beach, a city in Southern California, where she said she was dropped off. She reappeared just hours before the ransom was due. That same day, police in Vallejo announced in a news conference that they had found no evidence of a kidnapping and accused Huskins and Quinn of faking the abduction, which spurred a massive search. After Huskins' release, Vallejo police erroneously likened her kidnapping to the book and movie Gone Girl, in which a woman goes missing and then lies about being kidnapped when she reappears. Investigators dropped that theory after Muller was arrested by police in Dublin, California, for a similar home invasion. Authorities said they found a cell phone that they traced to Muller, and a subsequent search of a car and home turned up evidence, including a computer Muller stole from Quinn, linking the disbarred attorney to the abduction. I've got to go back to a couple points on this article. The first woman that they're charging him with, he attacked her, tied her up, made her drink medications. Then he literally, for sake of a better word, he telegraphed what he was going to do. And that first woman convinced him not to. Only for Muller to leave after recommending that this woman get a dog. If that's not crazy enough, try this. A month later, he tries the same thing again. He breaks into a home in Palo Alto, California, binds and gags a woman, forces her to drink NyQuil. starts assaulting this woman, but she was able to convince him to stop. These women are either quick thinking or lucky as all get out. Because then again, I believe Muller was kind of foolish too, simply because the first woman, he, like I said, he telegraphed it. He told her exactly what he was going to do. And somehow the woman was able to, she was able to stop him. She was able to convince him to stop. I'm amazed just reading that. Anyway, if those charges are what they seem to be, and he's already serving 40 years. If they tell him, if they put him on trial, and he gets life in prison, the 40 years that he's serving now won't mean nothing, because he's gonna be in there for the rest of his natural life. That's all there is to that. All right, next on the docket. A woman pleads no contest to killing her terminally ill husband in the hospital. This is a case, as I read it, read this more than once, and I still don't know how I feel about it. I'm gonna let you guys be the judge, though. A Florida woman pleaded no contest to charges she killed her terminally ill husband days before she was scheduled to stand trial on the charges. 76-year-old Ellen Gilland had initially pleaded not guilty to charges of assisting self-murder and multiple counts of aggravated assault with a firearm after police said she shot a round into the hospital ceiling as officers responded to take her into custody. Gillen pleaded no contest to charges of manslaughter with a firearm and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Gillen reached a plea agreement, with the state in advance of the hearing. In exchange, prosecutors waived sentencing guidelines, including a 3-year minimum for one charge, and agreed to a 10-year cap on her prison sentence. Her sentence will be determined at a hearing on February 28th. At a pivotal pre-trial hearing, attorneys debated the admissibility of expert testimony and evidence that could shape the trial's outcome. The defense sought to include testimony from experts and caregivers to paint a picture of Jerry Gillen's severe suffering and his alleged wish to die. Prosecutors, however, argued that much of the proposed evidence was irrelevant or overly sympathetic and could improperly influence the jury. The court ruled to allow testimony from Crystal Brown, a nurse who treated Jerry, about his physical and mental health. Brown is expected to testify that 77-year-old Jerry suffered from significant medical complications, including multiple organ failures and major depressive disorder, and expressed a desire to end his life. However, the judge excluded testimony from Dr. Jeffrey Danziger, a forensic psychiatrist, regarding Ellen's intent and Jerry's mental state, noting it was outside the scope of expert opinion and a matter for the jury to decide. Again, I do not know how I feel about this particular case. This is one of those that is that is just tugging at me one in both directions. On the one side, you have a 77-year-old man who just wants to leave this world. He doesn't want to suffer anymore. On the other hand, you have his wife, 76, who, for all intents and purposes, wanted to assist him in that. I guess in the knowledge that she would join him down the road. Yeah, it's almost too easy to quarterback this and say, yeah, she's guilty, or no, that's not right. But you got I'm factoring in her age. Because any big sentence you were to give her, that's the rest of her life. I really don't know how to feel about this. But February 28th, I will have a verdict, and when I get it, you'll get it right here. Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. Now, I emptied the stupid case files of 2024. I trashed them. But now I get my first dumb case of 2025. Yeah, you're reading the headline correctly. A Texas teen is facing a felony charge for allegedly poisoning a classmate's goat. She poisoned, allegedly, she poisoned her classmate's goat. And I don't mean goes over any terrain, and I don't mean greatest of all time. I'm talking about I'm talking about the literal goat. A teenager in Texas is facing serious charges after she allegedly killed a classmate's goat by poisoning it. 17-year-old Aubrey Van Landingham is charged with cruelty to livestock animals, a felony, and is due back in court for a pre-indictment hearing on January 15th. That's next Monday, I believe. No, I take that back. That's next Wednesday. According to an arrest affidavit obtained by KEYE, Van Landingham confessed to force-feeding her classmate's show goat pesticides, telling police that she did so because she believed her classmate to be a cheater. Van Landingham allegedly told officers this was her second attempt to poison the animal. Police obtained security video allegedly showing Van Landingham gathering supplies at her school's barn and then walking to the goat pens. That's according to a report from KVUE. Once there, she appears to force a syringe into a goat's mouth multiple times. An investigation revealed that Van Landingham used her phone to search queries about lethal doses of bleach and methods of poisoning animals, as well as, quote, how to clear search history. That's according to a report from KEYE. The goat's owners told police that Van Landingham sent them a video of the goat before its death saying it wasn't acting right, according to a report by KVUE. Van Landingham was released from jail after posting a bond, according to court records. You're going to poison a goat and kill it because you feel your classmate is a cheater. Do you know how stupid that sounds? In case everybody was within earshot of me, and you're thinking, wait a minute, say that again? Okay, I will. You're a 17-year-old student. You believe your classmate is a cheater. So what do? You allegedly poison your classmate's goat because you believe your classmate is a cheater. How foolish, how stupid, how asinine does that sound? I hope this all adds up and you end up getting time behind bars, because that has got to be the most ridiculous thing I've reported in the nearly 3 years of doing Bethea'S Byte Reloaded, and I'm just starting out 2025. Absolutely ridiculous. Next up, the biggest story we had this week is the attack in New Orleans. 15 dead, at least, and dozens injured. The death toll from a vehicle attack in New Orleans that's being investigated as an act of terrorism rose from 10 to 15, according to the FBI. That was on this past Wednesday. The FBI said 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, a U.S. citizen and Army veteran from Texas, drove into a crowd of New Year's revelers around 3 a.m. local time in the popular area of Bourbon and Canal Street. In addition to the 15 killed, officials said dozens of others were injured. Law enforcement officials said the suspect was killed following a shootout with police. 2 officers were also wounded in the incident but are in stable condition. A photo circulated among law enforcement officials showed a bearded Jabbar wearing camouflage next to the truck after he was killed by police. That's according to the Associated Press. The FBI said weapons, an ISIS flag, and a potential improvised explosive device, an IED, were located inside the vehicle. Authorities added that other potential IEDs were located in the French Quarter. President Joe Biden revealed that the FBI informed him that the suspect posted on social media prior to the attack that he was inspired by ISIS and had a desire to kill. It was very intentional behavior, New Orleans Police Commissioner Ann Kirkpatrick said at an earlier press conference. This man was trying to run over as many people as he could. Authorities said the pickup truck used in the attack was rented through a car sharing company. Without elaborating, officials said they don't believe the suspect acted alone. To those who played a role in this horrific act of cowardice, we will find you and we will bring you to justice, Representative Troy Carter said during a briefing. President Biden promised to keep the public informed about the investigation. I have directed my Attorney General, the FBI Director, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Head of National Counterintelligence Terrorism Center, and the intelligence community to work on this intensively until we have a full and complete information, the President said. President-elect Donald Trump also commented on the attack, calling it an act of pure evil. Our hearts are with all the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department, he said. The incident happened as thousands of people celebrated the New Year and college football fans gathered in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl. The matchup between the University of Georgia and Notre Dame was scheduled to be held later in the day, less than a mile away from the attack. But officials announced that the game was postponed for 24 hours so bomb-sniffing dogs could sweep the Caesars Superdome to ensure it's safe. Meanwhile, University of Georgia President Jerry W. Moorhead announced that a Georgia student was also critically injured in the attack. I have spoken to the student's family and shared my concern, support, and well wishes on behalf of the entire UGA community, he said in a statement. As we continue to hold victims and their families in our thoughts and prayers, the university will do everything in its power to support those in our community who have been impacted by this unspeakable event. The FBI set up a digital tip line and is asking anyone with information related to the incident to please submit it to tips.fbi.gov. Federal and local law enforcement in Las Vegas, Nevada are investigating whether an explosion outside of the Trump International Hotel was an act of terror and or related to the incident in New Orleans. Officials in Las Vegas say a 2024 Tesla Cybertruck stopped outside of the glass entrance doors to the hotel's valet area before it exploded. That's according to Scripps News Las Vegas. The person inside of the vehicle was killed and 7 others outside were injured. The Cybertruck had been rented from a company called Turo before the attack. In a post on social media, Elon Musk, Tesla Motors CEO, said, "We have now confirmed that the explosion was caused by a very large fireworks and or a bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself. All vehicle telemetry was positive at the time of the explosion." Now there is an update. There is an update on that case. The FBI says that the driver in this rampage acted alone. The Army veteran who drove a pickup truck into a crowd of New Year's revelers in New Orleans acted alone, according to the FBI, reversing his position from a day earlier that he likely worked with others in the deadly attack that officials said was inspired by the Islamic State group. The FBI revealed that the driver, Shamsuddin Jabbar, an American citizen from Texas, posted 5 videos on his Facebook account in the hours before the attack in which he proclaimed support for the militant group and previewed the violence that he would soon unleash in the famed French Quarter. This was an act of terrorism, It was premeditated and an evil act, said Christopher Rea, the deputy assistant director of the FBI's counterterrorism division, calling Jabbar 100% inspired by the Islamic State. The attack along Bourbon Street killed 14 revelers, along with Jabbar, age 42, who was fatally shot in a firefight with police after steering his speeding truck around a barricade and plowing into the crowd. About 30 people were injured. It was the deadliest Islamic State-inspired assault on U.S. soil in years. Raya stressed that there was no indication of a connection between the New Orleans attack and the explosion of Wednesday of a Tesla Cybertruck filled with explosives outside of Trump's Las Vegas hotel. The person inside that truck, a decorated U.S. Army Green Beret, shot himself in the head before detonation, authorities said. The FBI continued to hunt for clues about Jabbar, but said that day into its investigation it was confident he was not aided by anyone else in the attack, which killed an 18-year-old aspiring nurse, a single mother, a father of two, and a former Princeton University football star, among others. The attack plans included the placement of crude bombs in the neighborhood in an apparent attempt to cause more carnage, officials said. 2 improvised explosive devices, or IEDs, left in coolers several blocks apart, were rendered safe at the scene. Other devices were determined to be non-functional. Officials reviewed surveillance videos showing people standing near one of the coolers, but concluded that they were not connected in any way with the attack, though investigators still want to speak with them as witnesses, Raya said. Investigators were also trying to understand more about Jabbar's path to radicalization, which they say culminated with him picking up a rented truck in Houston on December 30th and driving it to New Orleans the following night. The FBI recovered a black Islamic State flag from his rented pickup and reviewed 5 videos posted to Facebook, including one in which he said he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned that news headlines would not focus on the war between the believers and the disbelievers, Raya said. Jabbar also stated that he joined the Islamic State group before last summer, and he provided a last will and testament, according to the FBI. Another homegrown terror attack. Homegrown. Now, I promised I wouldn't get political, but I will back President Biden. To gather as much information as you can before presenting it to the American people. Number one, and number two, I actually agree with Donald Trump on the statement that this was an act of pure evil. Yeah, now I'm checking the weather outside, and no, it is not snowing. I agree with Donald Trump in that this was an act of pure evil. What I disagreed with is part of his statement prior to that, in which he was ready to swear that this was an act of an immigrant. No, sir. This was an American-born citizen who was radicalized by ISIS. But in a way, we really don't have to worry about it now because the New Orleans Police Department did their job and took him out. So my My respect to them. My prayers for who are still in the hospital. Those who are still recovering from this terroristic threat. And I pray all the best that happens. All right. Next up, emotions run high at the Wagner sentencing. Victim Hannah Gillies' mother yelled, "I hope you die," as Rita Newcomb and Jake and Angela Wagner was sentenced. Now you know it's got to be something really heavy if the victim's mother is telling the convicted defendant, "I hope you die." So, for the first and probably the only time tonight, here is that victim impact statement. No, no, no. You know what? I will do better than that. I'm gonna do better than that. I am going to I'm going to take you right to the sentencing of Angela Wagner first.
I lined up the numbers differently than the lawyers recommended, but they come up to the mutually recommended 30 years. So for purposes of the record, with regards to count number 9, complicity to aggravated murder, I impose a 9-year prison sentence. On counts 10, 11, 12, and 13, I impose a 9-year prison sentence. That's an aggravated burglary. For unlawful possession of dangerous ordnance, count 14, the maximum 12 months in prison. For count 15 and 17, tampering with evidence, 3 years in prison. Count 16, tampering with evidence, 3 years in prison. No sentence on forgery, no sentence on unauthorized use because they merge. On unlawful interception of oral communication, 18 months in prison. And then for the obstructing justice in count 21, 12 months in prison. And then engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, 9 years in prison. Mr. Crapence is right to remind me of the recent case of Beatty. I saw that come rolling out the first week of December. Maybe that was in my entry 2 weeks ago with regard to having to follow the mandates. A lot of people might think judges have unlimited reign, if you will, to impose sentence, when in fact we have pages and pages and volumes of rules and case authority on how to impose a sentence. So the Beatty case tells me that there's a mandatory duty with regard to the firearm specifications to impose the maximum 6 years consecutively to each other. So there's a firearm silencer specification that has to be imposed on count 9 and count 22. So there's 6 years plus 6 years is 12. With regard to 9 more years for the aggravated burglary charges, those run concurrently with each other, consecutive to the firearm specification. So we're at 6 plus 6 plus 9. And then finally, on the corrupt activity charge, count 22, there's a 9-year sentence, which is consecutive to the 9. So now it's 6 plus 6 plus 9 plus 9. Is my math right, Mr. Crapence? 30 years. The other charges all run concurrently, so that felonies 3 and 4 don't add additional time. It's 30 years in prison as mutually recommended.
So Angela Wagner gets 30 years. And we're nowhere near done yet. Let's see what the grandmother, Rita Newcomb, gets.
It doesn't count the past. So you've been on supervision, but it doesn't count. The past doesn't count toward the future. That's pre-trial. The past does help me indicate I don't expect to see you again because the probation department seems to think you're not a problem. But I'm going to put you on supervision for 5 years and tell you that there's 173 days suspended in case you can't comply moving forward. I'm going to order the $750 fine plus the court costs, and then your ability to pay over time will affect whether it's actually collected. Because if I don't impose it today, I can't impose it later. Understand? The terms and conditions of probation will primarily involve your compliance with the law, reporting requirements, and then any education or training programs they think are necessary for you to be a good citizen, which in your case may not be a lot, but that's generally the purposes of supervision, is to help people become law-abiding people if they aren't already. So 173 days at risk, there's a $750 fine, plus the court costs that have to be paid, subject to ability to pay. Understand?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do I have to go to jail?
You want to answer that, or should I?
I prefer you would say, but I think no.
No, unless you act out.
Oh, okay.
173 days suspended.
Okay.
But it does demonstrate a good point. What I think I'm saying isn't what people are always hearing.
But there will be a fine, and
Yeah.
if I'm bad, I'll go to jail. But if I can stay good, I don't have to. But I do pay the fine.
Yeah, subject to your ability to pay.
Okay.
Like, the point's not to put you in poverty. The point is to modify your behavior. If you have $30 left at the end of the month, then that should go toward the fine or the costs. At the end of the 5 years, if you can't pay it, you don't get incarcerated for being poor. It's forgiven at that point in time, but it is meant to be a punishment. Does that help you?
Yeah, I think I understand now.
Okay. Keep doing what you have been doing with regard to probation compliance.
But I still call in if I have to leave the state or something.
Or show up, whatever they say, you step and fetch it.
Okay.
Corrections or clarifications, Gerlach?
Clarification, in the entry, it says 90 days is the maximum.
I did say that wrong. It's 90 is the maximum. Yeah,
And you said 170.
I did. It's 83, not 90 is the maximum. I said 180.
Yeah.
I upped it up a letter, so 83. Thank you very much. My sentencing entry is actually back there on the desk right now,
All right.
which doesn't help me here. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So 97 credit, 83 suspended, $750 fine, plus costs,
Yes, Your Honor.
5 years probation. Thank you for that correction. My apologies.
No problem.
Thank you. Ms. Kidnapper?
So Rita Newcomb, making sure she heard it clearly, she is not going to jail at the moment. She's on 5 years probation with a $750 fine for her role in the in that Ohio family massacre. Now, there's just one last domino left, and that is Jake Wagner. After his sentencing, I'll break the case down.
Now, where the judge is wrapping up the sentencing of Jake Wagner in the Ohio family massacre case.
With regard to the penalties to impose, count 1, aggravated murder, life in prison. Count 2, aggravated murder, life in prison. Count 3, aggravated murder, life in prison. Count 4, aggravated murder, life in prison. Count 5, aggravated murder, life in prison. Count 6, aggravated murder, life in prison. Count 7, aggravated murder, life in prison. Count 8, aggravated murder, life in prison. Count 9, conspiracy to commit aggravated murder, maximum 11 years, Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. Counts 10, 11, 12, 13, aggravated burglary, maximum terms of 11 years in prison. Count 14, possession of a dangerous ordinance, 3 years in prison. Counts 15 and 17, tampering with evidence, 3 years in prison. Counts 16 is tampering with evidence, 3 years in prison. Count 18 merges, so there's no sentence on 18. Count 19 merges, so there's no sentence on 19. Count 20, unlawful interception, 18 months in prison. Count 21, obstructing justice, 12 months in prison. Count 22, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, the maximum 11 years in prison. And then count 23, unlawful sexual conduct with a minor, a 4th degree felony because of more than 4 years of age difference. In that case, 18 months in prison, the maximum sentence. With regard to firearm specifications, the court's duty-bound under the recent Beatty case to impose mandatory 6 years on the first firearm spec taken from count 1 and 6 years on the firearm specification found in count 2. You're entitled to 2,244 days of jail time credit up through and including today. You're required to register as a violent offender. You also have sex offender registration requirements. The sex offender registration requirements apply upon any release from prison, which would be for a period of 25 years, registering at least every 6 months with the sheriff in the county where you reside. And if you change your address, take a new employment, then you have to change your registration anytime you change a variable. A violent offender database, as you heard earlier, is a 10-year registration, which can be extended. And if you fail to comply with the sex offender registration or the violent offender registration, that can be a violation of any terms of release or a separate felony at the time.
Wow. Now I'm gonna go ahead and break this down for you, okay? Clashes between the judge and prosecutor and emotional victim impact statements led to a dramatic day in an Ohio courtroom as 3 members of the Wagner family were sentenced for their roles in the 2016 massacre. Jake Wagner, Angela Wagner, and Rita Newcomb were each sentenced for their roles in the murder plot that killed 8 members of the Roden family in a custody battle over a toddler. The hearing got off to a bumpy start when visiting Judge Jonathan Payne chastised Special Prosecutor Angela Kidnapper, who opposed holding the sentencing hearing before George Wagner III's stands trial for his alleged role in the massacre, repeatedly tried to put her objections on the record. "I got your objection," Judge Hines said, cutting her off. "It's been in the record 5 times. You don't need to do it again." Andrea Shoemaker, victim Hannah Gilley's mother, was overcome with emotion and screamed as she addressed Jake directly in the courtroom, screaming, "You are the spawn of Satan. I hate you. You ruined my life. You ruined innocent children's lives. I hope you die." Jake Wagner, who admitted to shooting several of the Roden and Gilley families execution style, agreed to spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. But Judge Hine rejected the deal, saying that because he accepted responsibility for his crimes, he shouldn't face the same sentence as his brother. Prosecutors say Jake's testimony during his brother's trial in 2022 was key to convicting George Wagner IV, who is now serving multiple life sentences for his role in the murders. Jake also testified that his father, Billy, killed at least 2 people and that his brother didn't fire a single shot. Judge Hines sentenced Jake to life without the possibility of parole, with the possibility of parole after 32 years. Angela Wagner, Jake's mother and a critical figure in the planning of the murders, received a 30-year sentence, in line with the deal she reached with prosecutors. Angela pleaded guilty in 2021 to multiple charges, including conspiracy and tampering with evidence, in exchange for having 8 counts of aggravated murder dropped. Angela was given credit for the 6 years and 6 weeks she had already served. Then there's Rita Newcomb, Jake's grandmother. While she didn't pull the trigger, she pleaded guilty to forging custody documents and lying to investigators about it in 2019. Her cooperation with prosecutors was a turning point in the case, leading to Jake's decision to change his plea. Rita was sentenced to 5 years of probation and a $750 fine. I mean, it's crazy what you do when it comes what people will do when it comes to kids getting control of children. They're willing to murder, run a conspiracy, and now, with the exception of the grandmother, they're gonna do time for it. Next on the docket, actress Blake Lively is accusing director Justin Baldoni of It Ends With Us of harassment and running a smear campaign to quote-unquote destroy her. Actress Blake Lively sued It Ends With Us director Justin Baldoni and several others tied to the romantic drama, alleging harassment in a coordinated campaign to attack her reputation for coming forward about her treatment on set. The federal lawsuit was filed in New York just hours after Baldoni and many of the other defendants in Lively's suit sued the New York Times for libel for its story on her allegations, saying the newspaper and the Star were the ones conducting a coordinated smear campaign. The lawsuits are major developments in a story emerging from the surprise hit film that has already made major waves in Hollywood and led to discussions of the treatment of female actors both on sets and in media. Lively's suit said that Baldoni, the film's production company Wayfarer Studios, and others engaged in a carefully crafted, coordinated, and resourced retaliatory scheme to silence her and others from speaking out. She accuses Baldoni and the studio of embarking on a multi-tiered plan to damage her reputation following a meeting in which she and her husband, actor Ryan Reynolds, addressed repeated sexual harassment and other disturbing behavior by Baldoni and a producer, Jamie Heath, who was named in both suits. The plan, the suit said, included a proposal to plant theories on online message boards, engineer a social media campaign, and place news stories critical of Lively. The alleged mistreatment on set included comments from Baldoni on the bodies of Lively and other women on the set. And the suit says Baldoni and Heath discussed their personal sexual experiences and previous porn addiction, and tried to pressure Ms. Lively to reveal details about her intimate life. Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Lively's lawsuit, but he previously called the same allegations completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious. Lively's lawsuit comes the same day as the libel lawsuit filed in Los Angeles Superior Court by Baldoni and others against the Times, seeking at least $250 million. The Times stood by its reporting and said it plans to vigorously defend against the lawsuit. Others who are defendants in Lively's suit and plaintiffs in the libel suit include Wayfarer and crisis communications expert Melissa Nathan, whose text message was quoted in the headline of the December 21st Times story, "We can bury anyone inside a Hollywood smear machine." Written by Megan Twooey, Mike McIntyre, and Julie Tate, the story was published just after Lively filed a legal complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, a predecessor to her new lawsuit. The libel lawsuit says the newspaper relied almost entirely on Lively's unverified and self-serving narrative, lifting it nearly verbatim while disregarding an abundance of evidence that contradicted her claims and exposed her true motives. But the Times didn't care. A spokesman for the Times, Danielle Rhodes, said in a statement that our story was meticulously and responsibly reported. It was based on a review of thousands of pages of original documents, including the text messages and emails that we quote accurately and at length in the article. To date, Wayfarer Studios, Mr. Baldoni, the other subjects of the article, and their representatives have not pointed to a single error, the statement said. But Baldoni's lawsuit says if the Times truly reviewed the thousands of private communications it claimed to have obtained, its reporters would have seen incontrovertible evidence that it was Lively, not the plaintiffs, who engaged in a calculated smear campaign. Lively is not a defendant in the libel lawsuit. Her lawyer said in a statement that nothing in this lawsuit changes anything about the claims advanced in Ms. Lively's California Civil Rights Department complaint, nor her federal complaint filed earlier today. The romantic drama It Ends With Us, an adaptation of Colleen Hoover's best-selling 2016 novel, was released in August, exceeding box office expectations with a $50 million debut. But the movie's release was shrouded by speculation over discord between Lively and Baldoni. Baldoni took a backseat in promoting the film, while Lively took center stage along with Reynolds, who was on the press circuit for Deadpool and Wolverine at the same time. Lively came to fame through the 2005 film The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and bolstered her stardom on the TV series Gossip Girl from 2007 to 2012. She has since starred in films including The Town and The Shallows. Baldoni starred in the TV comedy Jane the Virgin, directed the 2019 film 5 Feet Apart, and wrote Man Enough, a book pushing back against traditional notions of masculinity. He responded to concerns that It Ends With Us romanticized domestic violence, telling the Associated Press at the time that critics were absolutely entitled to that opinion. He was dropped by his agency WME immediately after Lively filed her complaint and the Times published its story. The agency represents both Lively and Reynolds. Baldoni's attorney Friedman said in a statement on the libel suit that the New York Times cowered to the wants and whims of two powerful, untouchable Hollywood elites. In doing so, they predetermined the outcome of their story and aided and abetted their own devastating PR smear campaign designed to revitalize Lively's self-induced floundering public image and counter the organic groundswell of criticism amongst the online public, he added. The irony is rich. And there's another celebrity scandal coming down the pike in 2025. More details as it comes in. Next, Rachel Morin's alleged killer wants to change of venue. Victor Martinez Hernandez files for a change in venue. It says he can't get a fair trial in Harford County, Maryland. Hang on a second, guys. There we go. The man accused of killing Rachel Morin wants his trial moved out of Harford County, Maryland. Attorneys for Victor Martinez Hernandez, which you see on the right side of the right side of your screen, say their client can't receive a fair trial because the murder case has been the subject of numerous inflammatory and prejudicial reports in both legacy and social media. Martinez Hernandez, a 24 El Salvador native, faces multiple charges connected to the August 2023 death of Morin. The 37-year-old mother of 5 was raped and murdered while jogging along Harford County's Ma and Pa Trail. In October, it was announced that Martinez Hernandez's trial would be delayed until April 1st. The defendant's public defenders had requested a delay because they wanted more time to review evidence, including the DNA and surveillance footage. Martinez Hernandez had previously waived his right to a speedy trial through an interpreter. His next court appearance is a motions hearing set for January 31st, followed by a March 31st pretrial conference. The trial is expected to last more than 2 weeks through April 16th. And we'll see if Victor Martinez Hernandez will get that change of venue. And if they do, I'll be sure to report it here. And finally, before we get down to the most anticipated trials of 2025, prosecutors want Karen Reed's experts' debunked opinions out of the upcoming retrial. Prosecutors argue in a motion that Richard Green's testimony is not based on fact and would only confuse the jury in the retrial itself. Alright. Prosecutors preparing for Karen Reed's retrial on murder charges have asked the judge to exclude testimony from a defense expert witness whose opinions they say have been debunked. Reed is facing several charges, including second-degree murder in the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. O'Keefe was found dead in the snow following a night out drinking with Reed and his friends on January 2022. While prosecutors say Reed hit O'Keefe with her car and left him to die in the snow, Reed has argued that she is a victim of a wide-ranging cover-up. Reed's first trial on the same charges ended with a mistrial in July 2024 when the jury could not reach a unanimous verdict. At her first trial, Reed's defense accused Jennifer McCabe of being part of the conspiracy to frame her and pointed to searches done on her phone on the morning that O'Keefe's body was found. Prosecutors have said the searches, how long tie-dye in Cicked, C-I-K-E-D, or hose long to die in cold, were done by McCabe at Reed's request after the body was found. To counter the claim, Reed's defense called Richard Green, who testified that McCabe had made the searches before 6:23 a.m. and that she attempted to delete them from her phone. Now prosecutors are asking Judge Beverly Canone to exclude Green from the second trial, arguing that his claims lack any evidentiary support and cannot be made in good faith. In a motion filed December 31st, prosecutors said that their expert who works for Celebrite can state with absolute certainty that there is no evidence of the defense claims. Celebrite is a company that provides technology that extracts data from cell phones for investigators. The basis for Mr. Green's contested opinions has been refuted not only by the Commonwealth's independent experts, prosecutors said, but by Cellbrite itself, who has removed the timestamp relied on by Mr. Green from Cellbrite's decoding engine. While the jury is considered the finder of fact at trial, prosecutors argued that in their motion that allowing Green's testimony to be heard would only serve to confuse the issue. Richard Green's debunked opinions are not an example of a battle of the experts best left to be resolved by the fact finder, but instead an attempt to infect the jury with an inadmissible opinion that is not premised on reliable digital forensics. Reed and her attorneys will return to court on January 7th to continue a Daubert hearing that started in December. At issue in that hearing is a separate piece of expert testimony. Prosecutors are seeking to exclude from the trial, namely the testimony of Dr. Marie Russell, who says that O'Keefe's injuries were the result of a dog attack rather than being hit by a car. Oh boy. Just when that case couldn't get any messier, now the retrial is already a mess, and we haven't even heard the bailiff say all rise yet. It's to be continued. When we get updates on this, I'll be sure to bring it to you as well. So now, my docket is finished. I am now prepared to bring to you the most anticipated trials of 2025. And I have even prepared my own graphics for each of these trials. So if you all will bear with me as I get these open. Okay, this is good. Alright, let me go ahead and begin by saying this. From murder conspiracies to killer spouses, I'm bringing you all inside the courtroom for the most high profile trials across the country. These are some of the cases we're anticipating for 2025. First up, as you can see, it's the state of Arizona versus Lori Vallow in the cult mob conspiracy trial. Already serving a life sentence for the murders of her two youngest children and her fifth husband's first wife, Lori Vallow plans to represent herself when she stands trial for the murder of her fourth husband and the attempted murder of her niece's ex-husband. Vallow has pleaded not guilty to Charles Vallow's murder and the attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreaux. The cases will be tried separately, but it is unclear which case will be the focus when jury selection begins March 31st. Now remember, guys, the last time a defendant was able to work himself and work himself to the point where he got himself no time behind bars. That ended a streak. But who's to say that Lori Vallow won't start another one? Defending herself? I wouldn't try it. Next, it's the Idaho student murders. State of Idaho versus Brian Kohlberger. Brian Kohlberger is charged with burglary and 4 counts of murder for the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students who were stabbed to death in their off-campus home in Moscow. Kohlberger could face the death penalty if convicted at trial in Ada County, Idaho. Let's see, who's next? Oh, oh yeah. Then there's this sicko. The murder of Madeline Soto, Florida versus Stephen Stearns. Stephen Stearns is scheduled to stand trial twice in 2025. The first in February for dozens of charges of sexual battery of a minor and sexual pornography. Then in September, he is scheduled to stand trial for the murder of Madeline Soto, the 13-year-old daughter of his girlfriend and the alleged victim in the disturbing videos and photos for which he faced the initial charges. If convicted, Stearns faces a potential death sentence. Then there's the Matriarch Mastermind trial. Donna Adelson is the 5th person facing charges for the murder of her former son-in-law, FSU law professor Dan Markle, who was gunned down in his garage on July 18, 2014. Her son, Charlie Adelson, was convicted of the murder along with his ex-girlfriend, Catherine Magbanoa, and hitmen Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Vieira. Jury selection is scheduled to begin June 3rd. Then it's the retrial. Massachusetts versus Karen Reed. Karen Reed is scheduled to be retried in April on charges she killed her boyfriend, Boston Police Officer John O'Keefe, as I mentioned earlier. Reed's first trial divided the community and captured worldwide attention after Reed and her defense team alleged that she was the victim of a wide-ranging cover-up. The focus on other players in the case led to the Massachusetts State Police relieving lead investigator Michael Proctor of duty, as well as Detective Kevin Albert, brother to the owner of the home where O'Keefe was found, being placed on administrative leave. Next, it's Nevada versus Dwayne Keefe D. Davis in the death of Tupac Shakur. Nearly 30 years after rapper Tupac Shakur was gunned down in Las Vegas, his alleged killer will stand trial. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, his trial is scheduled to begin March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Prosecutors plan to use Davis's own words against him at trial, including interviews in which he spoke publicly about Shakur's murder. Prosecutors say that while Davis didn't fire the gun himself, he was the shot caller, and nothing would have happened unless he gave the okay. Next, we go to Wisconsin for the deadly first date murder trial. Maxwell Anderson is scheduled to stand trial in May, more than 1 year after he allegedly murdered Sadie Robinson following their first date. After Robinson was reported missing, investigators reported finding pieces of her dismembered body in several areas. Anderson is also facing arson charges for allegedly burning the victim's car. And finally, the disappearance of Maya Millette. Larry Millette is charged with murder and illegally possessing an assault weapon in the death of his missing wife 40-year-old Maya Millette. Prosecutors have claimed Larry killed Maya because she was looking to divorce him. Maya, who shares 3 children with Larry, disappeared in January 2021. All of these cases will be covered right here between Court TV, your front row seat to justice, and the drama-free true crime destination, Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. And that's going to wrap up my first bite of 2025. Thank you all so much for joining me here. I hope everybody had a great Christmas and hopefully your 2025 is everything you want it to be. First off, I thank you all for watching, and if you like everything you saw and heard, be sure to hit that like, subscribe, drop me a comment. Don't forget it. And that this is your free way of supporting the channel. If you'd like to drop me a financial tip, that'll help me a great deal too. Hit me up on PayPal, PayPal.com, PayPal me EKB316, Cash App $ EKB316, Venmo EB the Last Outlaw. Remember, nothing is obligated, but it's always appreciated. You can also hit me up all over social media. I'm on Facebook at Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, at EKB316. That's in all caps. I'm on YouTube at Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. I'm on Instagram at EKB316, all lowercase. I am on TikTok until I can no longer use it, but while I'm there, I'm at King of Hearts 316 2021, and you can always email me. That's not going to change. You can always hit me up at kingofhearts316 _09 at outlook.com. Alright, here we go. It's 2025 and nothing has changed here. This is still the home for true crime news without the drama, where your opinions matter, where lively debates are encouraged, where your voice is heard, and above all else, justice is served. Welcome to 2025. Once again, this is Bethea'S Byte, and it's reloaded. Alright, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Until then, Ernest Bethea, the Last Outlaw. Happy New Year to everybody, and until we meet again, you all know what to do. Bite.
Thanks for watching and joining me here at the drama-free true crime destination. Be sure to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment on this video. Also, be sure to follow Bethea'S Byte Reloaded all over social media. This is Bethea'S Byte, and it's reloaded.